All right, you're listening to On Deck, presented by Amazing Med Zone. I'm Phil from Shirley with my boys here tonight, Drew Minotti 82 and Mets hype, Johnny Mancuso. What's up, boys?
What up? What up? What's going on?
What
In
up?
honor of Bobby Bonilla Day, like a week ago, I feel like it was, maybe almost 2 weeks ago now. I wanted to do this. We were talking about it, doing a top five worst Mets signings or trades. You can put a trade in there if you got one. And I'm going to start at number five. Obviously, Bobby Bonilla Day. We're just talking about it just now. He's got to be in my number five. We're still paying the guy all these years. I know that he had some success with the Mets when he was there, much more than some of the other guys we're going to get to on the list. But to me, Bobby Bonilla, I had to get him on this list. It's a joke every year now when we see this Bobby Bonilla Day still making money, and he did nothing for us.
Yeah, it's pathetic. We're still paying the guy $1 million a year. But it's a smart contract. I heard the Orioles are still paying him too.
It's crazy. He's a smart man. He's a smart man.
Very smart.
Yeah,
True. Who's the five?
my number five is gonna be Darren Ruff. I know it's
Ooh,
he
okay,
one
I
of
like it.
That's a good one.
get a lot out of, but still he was terrible. All right, he never really did. So I mean, it's one of those guys that sticks out in my mind because it's most recent probably. But at the same time, I just felt like he never did anything at all, and he was like one of our big signings that year, or at least like a big role guy that year.
A guy that you thought would be something, and he was nothing at all. Totally agree. I love it. Johnny, who you got for five?
For five, I don't know if you guys remember him. We probably do remember him. This is when I first started watching the Mets, and I hated this guy more than life itself, and I don't know why. I was 5 years old and I hated him. Hazu Matsui, the second baseman.
Oh yeah, of course.
I hated this guy so much. Um, so he only bat when they first acquired him in 2006. He only batted 200 with one home run and 7 RBIs before he got traded on later that year to the Rockies. And he was such a waste, and it was just a horrible time.
Oh, I'll never forget Kazmat too. When we first signed him, and his first at bat as New York Met, he hits a homer. I remember yelling at all my friends like, "He's gonna be the greatest player ever." And then he just goes on to he homers the next 2 years on opening day, but that's his highlight for his career.
Yeah.
My number four, it's got to be. I'm thinking about famous, Mets signings. I never seen this guy play, but just to talk about it forever, and it's George Foster, number four. He was a guy who signed. He was the first big Frank Cashin signing. He signs a 5-year deal. Monster years with Cincinnati, MVP years, 52 homers, 40 homers, 140 RBI seasons. Comes to the Mets and he is nothing. He's a shell of himself. I feel like he's one of the first guys that jumps off the map to me where it was like a big time player. I know this happens well before, but he still was not in his prime, but his career didn't pass him yet. But once he put that jersey on, the decline happened big time. And George Forster's got to be number four for me.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's a name I hear a lot. I don't remember watching him play. I don't think play up. At the same time, yeah, he was supposedly one of the biggest disappointments.
Mhm.
My number four is again recent, and this was a trade. It's Javi Baez. I know giving up Pete Crow Armstrong was tough. I know there was a big rift at that time between Lindor and McNeil, who were trying to fill that hole at second base. And you're like, oh, Javi Baez, this is the guy. Like everyone was so pumped, and he didn't do it. He fizzled out. I feel like that was like one of like the downfalls of his career. Like before he went to the Mets, he was pretty decent. Now it's just like and watching him swing on pitches that were like in the dirt, it just like kills me. And you thought that was it. That was our second base and shortstop for a while, and it was short lived. So Javi Baez.
That the highlight reel of Javi Baez missing by like a foot is hysterical.
Yeah.
Johnny, who do you got it on number four?
All right, number four, I got someone who's pretty recent, not too recent though. Luis Castillo.
Yeah.
Love it.
The first year they had him in 2007, he actually wasn't horrible. He batted close to 300, but then after that, you can't forget, the drop fly ball against the Yankees. You can't miss. I remember he fell down stairs in the dugout and he got hurt.
Yep.
He was just hard to watch. And
perfect, dude. That's a perfect pick. I think he's a guy that we seen, kill us too when he's on the Marlins, batting 330 all those years, like just a hit machine. We bring him over, and he's just that classic guy that just has a dramatic decline, and he'll always be remembered, like you said, for dropping that fly ball, man. That is brutal. My number 3 guy to me is a guy we signed recently, and I feel like he never played. And to be honest, he played 9 games, and that's Jed Lowry. We
Yeah.
signed him. I didn't expect much from him, but you expect him to be a platoon player. The guy's a major leaguer. He did have some success in other areas, in Oakland and in Boston. So I'm thinking, this guy's a quality ball player coming on the team. I love the signing when we made it, and to see him only play 9 games, he has to be on my list. Number 3, Jed Lowry.
Yeah, it's funny. That's actually my number 3 as well, Jed Lowry.
I love it.
It was just a joke. It's like one of those ongoing jokes now too. You're like, oh, like, how is Jed Lowry's career as a Met? It's pathetic, man. The guy never played 9 games. That was like a big Brody Van Wagenen guy. Like we thought he was going to be the man. Yeah, he just never played. He got paid good money too to play 9 games. So I don't know how. I mean, he had to be on my list. Like I was even battling putting him at number 1 because he was just so. But I don't think he was ever going to be that good of a player, but still to contribute at least a little bit.
Yeah.
So Jed Lowry's my number 3 as well. What do you got there?
Number 3, I actually have Oliver Perez down.
Ooh, okay, I like it. Yep.
So he was very good for the Pirates in 06, and then not 06, the year before, 05. And they get him, and they decided to overpay him and give him a 3-year contract for $36 million.
Yeah.
And the guy had over a 4 ERA.
Yeah, no, he was brutal. He's up there. Like when you really dissect it, you go through other people's lists. A lot of people have him number 1. They just talk about him being the guy where, he got a boatload of money and he was nothing. He was a shell of himself. I always remember him pitching in that 06 playoff game and actually keeping us in it. So I feel like you said, we overpaid him because we just really had nothing. My number 2 guy jumps out at me. He's one of those guys where we bring in a superstar player, and I'm expecting this guy to be a stud, batting .336 with the Cleveland Indians the year before, comes to the New York Mets, and he hits .265 for 2 straight years. Roberto Alomar Jr. He has to be on my list. I'll never forget this. In 02, the Mets go out and they make these free agent signings. Mo Vaughn, Jeremy Burnett, Roberto Alomar Jr. I'm going crazy. The Mets are here. We're going to compete. And these guys are terrible. Roberto Alomar Jr. was so bad as a Met. It's comical. So he's got to be on my list. Number 2, Roberto Alomar Jr.
Yeah, it's a good one. Like you said, he had the name, he had the accolades, and like you thought, like, all right, this is our guy, and nothing. My number 2 is Bobby Bo. I had him on the list somewhere. Recently, I didn't realize that they talked about how without getting Bobby Bonillla, we would have never got David Wright somehow or something like that. There's like some path of I guess it's like that's the silver lining
or something like that.
But at the same time, like I have to have him on the list. He was like one of those superstars that you thought was going to like change our team, like almost like a signing, and he was terrible. He wasn't good. He didn't live up to his contract, and the fact that we're still paying him really just makes that dagger going a little bit more. So Bobby Bo is my number 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the same thing. Bobby Bo is my number 2.
Love it.
5 years, $29 million each year. He was coming off a season where he batted over 300 with over 100 RBIs, and we signed him, and
never seen that ever again.
Nope, never again.
No, I love it. I love the pick. He, like you said, he's got to be on everybody's list. My number one, and it's a guy who I thought was going to be a stud. When the Mets signed him, I was so pumped. He had 36 homers the year before with the Boston Red Sox, and that's Jason Bay. He comes and signs a 4-year contract with the New York Mets, and he is absolutely atrocious. It's 26 homers in the 3 years he's there playing. He has to be number 1 on my list. I can't stand the guy. And I'm looking at you guys. I'm probably thinking, you know what? With all of our ages right here, he's probably on everybody's list. So Jason Bay, number 1 to me. I got to pass it to Drew.
Yeah, that was I started my list with that. I had Jason Bay as number 1 just because like I thought he was going to be the man. And I feel like it was one of those signings that like we kind of like scrambled to grab somebody, and like we gave him a bit more money than I thought we should have. But at the same time, like you said, he was putting up numbers in Boston. I don't know. I had expectations for him, but at the same time, I thought we kind of like needed just a big splash, and he was that big splash. But yeah, I think you ask 100 guys, at least 90 of them are going to say Jason Bay was one of the biggest disappointing free agents in Mets history, hands down.
No,
I
yeah,
agree.
my number one is 100% Jason Bay too. Just the contract is horrible. You know, in Boston he balled out, Pittsburgh he balled out.
Yep.
He had three times before he joined the Mets. He had over 30 homers and over 100 RBIs each year before joining the Mets. And
Yeah.
I remember watching him out there, and I'm like, why did we do this? Like,
Yeah. Why do we bring this guy in?
And it's
No,
not like he didn't play in small markets. Like playing in Boston and Pittsburgh, you know, it's not playing in Kansas City. You know, the guy
100%.
played in markets, so he should be able to play
I
in New
think
York.
I think when it comes down to Jason Bay's success, it's playing in that field too, with that monster. But it also is it's also on top of him just that severe decline when it hits you. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just hits certain players, and it just seems like the Mets over the years have made the wrong decisions in that. That was always their MO, where they would bring in a player, you know, past his prime. But that's it. That's us right there. That's our top 5 list. We want to hear your top 5 list in the comments. I'm sure we probably missed 1 or 2 people, and I'm sure people are going to go crazy about it. But like I said, Jason Bay, a unanimous number 1 for everybody. We'll be back. Thanks for listening.
Let's go Mets.
let's go Mets.